Hey, look at the back of the camera. Does it look like I'm doing okay?
That's perfect.
Perfect? Yeah.
Middle of the damn frame. Perfect
What?
focus.
I got it right the first
Tracking
time.
your eye perfectly.
Tracking the eye.
Especially when you do that, yeah, it's like. It's got really good eye focus. Holy shit. It's
That's
like
the Nikon
spinning
Z6II.
on-
I got smudge on my glasses. Much better. So the doctor says I should wear these. I'm going blind. I'm going blind. Did it make me look smarter? Wiser? Do I look wiser? That's the question. Because you can be smart, like a smart ass. But this is wisdom. And the fact that I can't see, so, you know, both of those things. Okay, friends, you read the title right. I've had the Z6 platform for 1 year. I'm currently recording on the Nikon Z6II, which only had about 9 months, but the Z6II officially 1 year. I'm going to tell you 3 things that I love about it. The one thing that I wish they would just get right, you can probably already guess what that is. As a matter of fact, I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't even count. But more importantly, I'm going to answer the question as to why I would buy it again. No problem, hands down, I would do it. And I'm going to tell you why you should too. First, let me give you a little bit of a backstory. About a year ago when I started my YouTube channel, I was shooting exclusively DSLR. I had the Nikon D500 and the Nikon D850, both fantastic, and I would argue 2 of the best cameras Nikon has ever made, except they really kind of sucked at video. If you wanted to do video, you were looking through the back, you'd have to pull it down, you'd have to look on the screen, make sure everything's... That's a pain in the butt. Today, with mirrorless cameras, if you are photographing a subject, you just flip that little switch right there on the back. Stills, video, stills, video, stills, video. That's simple. Not only that, when you flip from video back to stills, it stops the recording, saves the file, and you can immediately start shooting again. That is the #1 reason why I switched from DSLR to mirrorless. I started a YouTube channel. I needed a video camera, and this was a Nikon that fit all of the lenses that I currently had. The one glaring just flaw with this camera, and I'm gonna get it out of the way right up front because we all know what it is, we all talk about it, and that is the autofocus system. Now, let me give you the reason why I think it's less than par. It's not because it doesn't work, it's just that it doesn't work as well as some of the other brands out there. Specifically Sony with the a7 III and the a7 IV, similar price point, you know, plus or minus a few $100. And you pick up those cameras and you look at the autofocus system and it works incredibly well. Same thing with the Canon R6 and the Canon R5. Once you experience that bird tracking and the eye tracking and the animal tracking, it's just hard to go back to the autofocus system in the Z6 and the Z7 platforms. It's just not as good, guys, and that shouldn't hurt anybody's feelings. And I do want to say that you can get amazing images with the autofocus system. It just takes a little more work. Let me explain to you what I mean. You can take beautiful bird in flight shots with the Z6. However, you might get 3 good images. The 5 in front of it and the 5 behind it are garbage. With these newer autofocus systems that came out the same time the Nikon Z6 came out, specifically in the Canon and the Sony, they get 80% of those shots. You might have 2 out of 12 that are bad as opposed to 2 out of 12 that are good. That's the difference. And some people will say that we put too much weight into the autofocus system, but let's be real with ourselves, guys. You want the autofocus system to work when you need it the most. And when you need it the most is when things are a little chaotic. That bird is flying by you, that owl just flew out of the tree directly at you, your nephew or your son running towards you at a soccer game and it's just not grabbing focus. That can be frustrating, especially when you've put so much confidence in the system. I'm not gonna beat that dead horse, guys. Autofocus system, it's been written 1,000 times about the Z6 platform. It's good, but it's just not great. The thing that I love the most about the Nikon Z6, and that is the ergonomics. I came from the Nikon D500 and the Nikon D850 prior to getting the mirrorless system, And those are big cameras. This one's smaller, and I was worried that this pinky was just gonna fall off. However, they figured it out. I mean, they really sized everything about this camera to where it feels really good in the hands. Deeper grip, those little function buttons fall in the right spot, and not only that, being able to operate everything with one hand. Now the play and delete button is over here. However, I did a little sneaky thing. I put the play button on the bottom function button because it just works for me. Now I know what a lot of you guys will say, and it's completely understandable. Josh, you just like Nikons. You've been shooting with Nikons. I'm sure a Sony guy would say that the Sony ergonomics are the best, or a Canon guy would say the Canon are the best. Okay, I'll give you that one. I did start with the Nikon D3200, I moved to the D7200, then the D810, and so forth and so on, all the way up to the Nikon Z9. And yeah, I'm used to it. But I challenge you, pick up a Nikon, put it in your hands, and feel how everything is just in the right spot. The number two, and what I consider the real reason we buy cameras and why the Z6 is fantastic, and that is image quality. The Nikon 24 megapixel sensor, in my opinion, okay, this is totally according to Josh. There's no science behind this. It just looks good. The 24 megapixel is just the right amount. I've had these high megapixel cameras, the Nikon D850 and now the Nikon Z9. Image quality is fantastic, but there's just a creaminess. There's just an absolute silkiness about the Z6 and Z6II 24 megapixel sensor images. I can't put my finger on it, but when I see one of my images that I nail with the Nikon Z6II, I know it's with the Z6II and I love it. I almost would argue that these high megapixel cameras, the images are just kind of too clinically right? Is that the right thing? Like I don't know. It's just like a robot made it. To me, the Z6II, it has that feel that is kind of romantic, right? It's the soft in the right spots, it's sharp in the right spot. And I would argue that this is one of Nikon's best performing sensors in all of their camera lineups. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't had a chance to give that a try, trust me, it's fantastic. Okay, the number three thing that I love about the Nikon Z6II and the Z6, and I touched on it earlier, and that is the video performance and the video quality. First of all, a couple of stats. This shoots 8-bit internal, 4K 30 frames per second on the Z6. On the Z6II, it goes 4K 60 frames per second. You can do that ultra slow motion in 1080, 4 times and 5 times slow motion, and it looks fantastic. But what gets me the most is that even with 8-bit internal 4K recording, you barely need to do anything to it if you get your settings right in camera when you go to post-process. As a matter of fact, most of the videos that I post, I don't do a lot of color grading. I just don't. Yeah, sometimes I do, but that's because I messed it up. The autofocus, the full-time autofocus, people talk about slow autofocus and all that stuff. The fact is when you get to video, video is designed to have a slower autofocus. It transitions slow so it's not harsh on the eye when you're watching, but it's sticky. I mean, this is some good sticky autofocus in the video mode. When I set up a camera, it tracks me. When I lock on a subject out in the field, it tracks the subject out in the field. Guys, I hope that helps. I hope it helps. I hope what you hear from me is that this is a great camera in the right hands. Don't be afraid of the autofocus not being perfect. You can get great images. You're just gonna have to work a little bit harder, but when you nail it, when you nail the shot, the color science, the image quality, the ISO performance is top notch in the Nikon Z6. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Thank you so much, friends. If you like this type of content and you wanna see more, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like, and I'll see you next time.